Welcome back, Turnpike to Turnpike 2014 Fantasy Football. This is the Week 4 preview show. Now, panic might be setting in for some of us. We've got some undefeated teams. Well, we actually have one undefeated team. We have some winless teams. And we also have some teams that are kind of struggling to find their way, mine being one of them. Let's get right to the monkey or gorilla or whatever it is in the room, and let's talk about this bet that Bob and I had regarding Jason Witten and Kyle Rudolph. Yes, Bob, I know Kyle Rudolph is going to be out for a good 6 or so weeks, so it looks like I'm going to be paying for you next year. It's tough to get a hand on that I might have to pay for your league dues next year, but I made that bet, and that is something that I will stand by. So if you feel winning because my tight end is on the shelf for a while while your well declining tight end is playing, if that's what you call it, it's not like my guy was tearing the roof off the place anyway. I got to do something on the waiver wire, I guess. Anyway, let's get to last week's matchups. In our first matchup last week, we have my Warriors of Babylon taking on Brian Sheen's Michael Sam's Gerbils. And I lose this one 113-97, where both Brian and I got stellar production out of our big wide receivers, his being 34 points out of Deshaun Jackson, 22 points out of the ultra backup in Niles Davis, and 15 points out of Tom Brady, where I got 26 points out of my wide receiver, Des Bryant, 18 points out of my quarterback, Jay Cutler, and 13 points out of my running back, Ahmad Bradshaw. Not exactly how I expected it. Once Dez hit that long play, I felt very comfortable, and then as these things happen in Turnpike to Turnpike, that one big play sways games big time, and Brian got one this week out of Des Bryant. In our next match from last week, we have John Moore's Downingtown Gravediggers taking on Deputy Commissioner Chris Long's Asgardian Thunder Gods, and Chris wins this one 93-42. Chris got 26 points out of his wide receiver, Jeremy Maclin, 22 points out of his quarterback, Drew Brees, and 16 points out of his running back, Fred Jackson. Where John really had just an absolutely terrible week. His high point total was his kicker, never a good sign, Cody Parkey. He also got 6 points out of his quarterback, Matt Stafford, and 6 points out of his running back, Bobby Rainey. Now, Bob, I don't want to even talk to you, Bob. John, where I want to talk to you about is the new thing that I've fallen in love with that somebody's turned me on to recently is something called FanDuel, which is weekly fantasy football where you get a salary cap and you set your roster, and it's basically legalized gambling on the web. I went heavy on Matt Stafford this week as myself. I don't know how he disappointed so greatly this week. You had to have been frustrated with that. Also, I want to thank you for doing your ever due diligent job of figuring out what Bob's best start was and what the results were of that. John took a look at Bob's previous history, found out that Bob started off 2-0 way back when, and wound up losing in the playoffs to yours truly. Hopefully that'll happen again this season. And in the next match from last week that we had the defending league champion, Jeffrey Hasakawi Golden Bombs, Hamilton Square Possums, taking on Greg Long's Mount Laurel Lancers. Jeff wins this one, as usual, 126-102. Jeff got 28 points out of his quarterback, Matt Ryan, 24 points out of his wide receiver, Pierre Garçon, and 22 points out of his running back, DeMarco Murray. Where Greg got 21 points out of his wide receiver, Victor Cruz, 26 out of his quarterback, Peyton Manning, and 20 points out of Le'Veon Bell. Smoke him if you got him. Wow, Jeff, you're off to a great start. Big contrast to last year when you started off 0-4. You are now the sole undefeated left in this league. You said to me early on that you would like nothing more than to repeat, to become the first repeat champion in our history. You're well on your way. It looks like a guaranteed playoff spot at this time, so well done as usual. In our next match from last week, we had Kenny Long's Godfathers taking on Aaron Stampa's Snoozy Loafs. What do you know? Aaron gets off the snide and wins this one 85-82. Aaron got 32 points out of his quarterback, Nick Foles, rather. I keep getting him confused with the kicker from the Jets. Nick Foles. I should start giving him some respect, seeing that most of you guys are Eagles fans, and he is a far better quarterback right now than the guy I root for. He got 17 points out of his tight end, Martellus Bennett, which he needed every single one of them on the Monday night game, as well as 12 points out of his Chiefs defense. Where Kenny, you got 24 points out of Marshawn Cross-Eyed Lynch, 14 points out of your quarterback Cam Newton, and 9 points out of your running back Terrence West, who I think is still a great pickup for you. In our next match from last week, we have Matt Dreyfus's. This matchup was fantastic. Matt Dreyfus is off in the corner taking on Mike Bonds, Eastfall Blunts, and Matt wins this by 1 point, going to 2-1, where Mike stays at 0-3. What a brutal loss. Where Matt got 38 points out of Andrew Luck, 37 points out of Julio Jones, and 17 points out of the Bengals defense. Where Bond got 43 points out of what was a great pickup, Mike. I think this was a phenomenal pickup by you for a quarterback. You were in dire straits and you picked this guy up. I wonder who told you to do that. 43 points out of Kirk Cousins, 19 points out of Emmanuel Sanders, and 16 points out of Alshon Jeffrey. Wow, what a match. That was awesome for you, Matt. What a nail-biter. And now you've got to deal with the fact, Bond, that you were 0-3. You mentioned to me earlier in the week that Goldie started off 0-4 last year. You're 0-3. You could be well on your way to a fantasy football championship here in Turnpike to Turnpike. And in our last match from last week, we have Jeff Szymanski's Paper Tiger taking on the previously undefeated Bob Crane's Julius Jones. Jeff wins this one 96-95. That noise you're hearing in the background is my dog Spike whining at the door. Linda, could you please let Spike up? So I apologize for the dog crying in the background. I do have the score now. Let me get my ebb and flow back together. Jeff, great job winning this one. You got 24 points out of your timely Indianapolis Colts defense pickup. That was a brilliant move by you. I saw that happen early Sunday morning. Great move. Picked them up, inserted them. I wonder why you did that, considering you wasted a 7th, 8th round draft pick on your Seattle Seahawks defense. 21 points out of Antonio Brown and 21 points out of your quarterback, Phillip Rivers. Where Bobby, the Over Manager of the Year award goes to him when we talk about this in a little bit. But Bobby got 28 points out of Rashad Jennings, 15 points out of Steve Smith, and 12 points out of Aaron Rodgers. And with that, I would like to welcome everybody to this week's Meet the Manager segment. Now, earlier this evening, I had a chance to sit down and talk to not a newcomer to the league. Jeff Szymanski has been in this league for 3 years now. But what's interesting is this is his first time being on Meet the Manager. I had a chance to talk to him a little bit about, get you all a little information about him. Not only these cryptic messages he's been leaving on the message boards, but a little bit about him and how come he's such a actually very solid fantasy football player. I talked to him before. That's this week's Meet the Manager. So finally, for the first time, I get to say Jeff Szymanski is joining me on Meet the Manager. Jeff, are you there?
Hey, what's up, man?
So, this is your third year now in Turnpike to Turnpike. This is the first time that you're doing this. Last year, obviously, we didn't do this, but this is the first time you're doing it. And I think more than anything, this is actually an opportunity for the majority of the league to kind of maybe learn a little bit more about you. Because up till now, really all they know is the guy who's posting very cryptic messages on the message board.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, what would you like to know about me?
Well, let's put it this way. All right, you're a guy. You played basically semi-pro football, correct?
I did.
Now, do you take that as a little bit of an inside knowledge of the game, and do you take that into consideration when you're putting a team together?
No, not at all, because fantasy football is luck, 90% luck.
Right.
So, playing football is not luck. Playing football is skill, and fantasy football is luck.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair. I'm just trying to figure out how you might have an advantage over some of us. Now,
if we were playing Madden, and you didn't never played a game of football in your life, and you don't know the play calling, then that would be an advantage.
That's interesting. So you're saying strategy of actual gameplay would be an advantage, but not so much fielding a roster.
I would think so, yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so let me ask you a question. Last year you made it all the way. 2 years ago was your first foray into Turnpike. Last year you made it all the way to the championship. It was a close game between you and Golden Bomb. This year you're starting off well. You got a 2-1 start already. How great was it to beat Bob this past week?
Well, let me tell you, that game was pretty rough, man. First of all, Forte didn't play at all for me.
Nope.
And then the Jets defense, I don't know what the hell they were doing, but somehow they were getting points. So I didn't watch the whole game. The third quarter, I just went to bed and kind of, fell asleep, woke up, and looked at the score, kind of time traveled so I could see what the score was at the end.
Yeah. There's no better feeling than beating Bob Crane, though. Especially
It's a damn good feeling, I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, especially an undefeated Bob Crane, somebody who likes to talk a big game. You should see the emails he's sending me telling me how Forte sucks for you and all this.
Yeah.
He for a little guy, he's got a big mouth, and he likes to use it, and it's nice to see you shut him up.
Yeah, well, little guys usually do have big mouths. They can never back it off half the time.
Well, I guess that's true. I'm not that big, am I? So,
I mean, you can call yourself out like that, yeah. I totally agree with you.
But I really am very happy for you that you beat Bob. I couldn't think of a better person for you to end the streak for. He is now 2-1. You are 2-1. Golden Bomb, though, sits there at 3-0. I think he's established himself as the team to beat again.
Golden Bomb's an asshole. Just because he beat me last year with his kicker. Never forgive him for that. That was... I don't even want to talk about that. But, little Bob, that's just... he's just a little piece... he works with it, too. The whole draft, he was taking people I wanted the whole time. Every time he came back to him, there was somebody else looking at. He grabbed him. There's a couple times I wanted to take his laptop and smash it. But I held back. He played a good golf game that day, so yeah. I got to give him credit when credit's due.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But so, how do you feel about your team the rest of the way?
I don't know, man. I tell you what, if Darren Sproles didn't have a couple good games, I would be worried because I was on the fence with Trent Richardson. I was definitely on the fence with Ben Tate. But at that time when I was picking them, there really wasn't any running back that I thought that was worth taking at that spot.
Right.
I went Forte, and then I went Antonio Brown, and I went wide receiver. So the running backs coming back weren't really there to hype yourself over with. But I took a gamble on them. So far, it's not paying off at all.
Well, Sproles, though, he's had a couple games for you. If he's hot, you're going to win that week, period, because the rest of your team is going to be solid, and if he goes off, your team's just going to blow him away.
Yeah.
So
I just need McCoy to keep on running and not, get his head knocked off, because when he's running the ball good, that leaves room for Sproles to catch the ball in the backfield.
Yep.
And especially with the slant routes. And then he gets at least 20 yards each time. So McCoy needs to step up his running game this year. I mean, he's talking about getting 2,000 yards this year. That's not happening.
No.
I don't think he's even going to break over 1,000.
You know, you brought up a great point, though, because, you know, when people are building these teams, they're thinking running backs are going to run the ball. That's how you're going to get your fantasy points. Wide receivers are going to catch the ball. That's how you're going to get your fantasy points. But when you're talking about a Sproles type of player or a Shane Vereen, those guys get you points in other ways, and it doesn't matter how they get them. They just get them for you, and gladly you're going to take them.
Yeah. You know, Beard told me today
Aaron.
that the top 10 running backs that were picked, or like the top 10 players in general,
Yep.
are like bust
Yep.
right now. So
I saw that too. If you think about it, Shady, Jamal Charles, Forte.
yeah, the top 3 running backs right off the bat
Right.
were all hurt at one point.
Yep.
I mean, if Shady didn't come back in, that's the top 3 out.
Aaron's got his issues with Eddie Lacy that he's not.
Oh, talk about a bust, dude.
Yep.
Oh, damn. And I almost took him over Forte, and I'm glad I didn't. I mean, Forte's not doing too much better.
Yep.
He's doing better than Lacy.
And the only one that's really proven that he's worth it is the cross-eyed Lynch. You know?
You know, dude, there's a couple of times when I was doing my mocks, there's people picking them like second, third pick. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I was like, all right, well, I wish this guy was in our league picking Lynch at third. But now, if you look at it now, I think most of us will pick him in the top 3.
Not me.
Well,
out of sheer principle effect.
Yeah, I know. Well, just like this week, I in my other league, I benched Garcon because I didn't want him going against. Yeah, I don't want to put a Redskin versus the Eagles.
Right.
And I don't want to have. And I lost the game because of that. I lost the game by 10 points.
Oof.
Because the wide receiver I put in only scored 10 points.
You can't.
Garcon got 27 for me.
You can't let your heart come into play in fantasy football, man. You just.
Well, let me tell you, you can, and I did, and I do not regret it. I'm not going to root for a Redskin against my Philadelphia Eagles.
You mean like?
Not going to happen.
You mean like your boy who not only picked up Kirk Cousins, he started him against your Eagles, and he's supposedly.
Let me all right, let's talk about Bond.
Yep. Okay.
Look at this guy real quick. So him picking up Tony Romo.
Yep.
And then going with
RG3. Yep.
And then getting. I mean, talk about a fake ass Eagles fan.
He's just got to get Eli next. If he gets Eli next, he's got the whole conference, the whole division.
He should just pick up Eli and just, check in his man card and call it a day.
All right, man. Listen, thanks for taking a couple minutes to talk to me. I hope that this wasn't too bad. I think that the rest of the league will appreciate getting to hear from you, as opposed to just these cryptic messages that you've been putting on the message boards.
Yeah, I got a question for you real quick.
Yeah.
Why does quicksand work slowly?
All right, Jeff. Listen, I'll talk to you during the week, and I'll see you tomorrow at the office. But until then, everybody, that's Jeff Szyminski, owner of the Paper Tigers, the 2-1 Paper Tigers.
See ya. Bye.
All right. Bye. So that was Jeff Szyminski, owner of the Paper Tigers. So let's take a chance to look at this coming week's matchups right now. I'm going to start off with my match between myself and Mr. John Moore as my Warriors of Babylon take on the Downingtown Gravediggers. This is going to be a really important match for both of us, John. We're both 1-2. Neither one of us wants to go to 1-3. This is going to be something that I think the history. Here's your next assignment. I know that you have done very well against me through the history of this league. Post on the message board pretty soon, as soon as you see this or as soon as you can. You probably have this at your recall quickly. What is our collective head-to-head record? I bet you have a better record than I do. Also, next week we have, this is a good one. We've got Brian Sheehan and his Michael Sam's Gerbils taking on the undefeated Jeffariah Hezekiah Golden Bomb. Now, what's interesting about this one is Jeff's got some bye week issues here. I think that what we're going to see here is some real scrambling, because Giovanni Bernard, one of the best running backs in football right now, is going to be on the bench for Jeff, so we'll see where that goes. Also, this week we have, I love when these happens, we've got our first long bowl of the year. Deputy Commissioner Chris Long's Asgardian Thunder Gods is taking on his oldest son, Kenny Long, and Kenny's Godfathers. Always interesting to see how that goes, and maybe next week we'll get one of them on the phone to hear about what it's like again in the Long household when the three combatants are all in the same house watching the stats roll in. The other Long will be taking on the previously undefeated Bob Crane when Greg Long's Mount Laurel Lancers takes on Julius Jones. This is going to be a great match. Hopefully, Greg, you'll be able to keep the pressure on and squash what is Bob Crane. Bob, I want to take a minute right now to address you. I don't need emails from you telling me about how great picks you have or anything. You have a team that should win. You overmanaged last week so poorly. It was ridiculous. I feel better now. Up next, we've got Aaron Stampa's Snoozy Lokes taking on Matt Dreyfus. And his off in the corner. Aaron coming off his first win, Matt coming off another win. This should be an interesting match. Let's see if Aaron can keep it up or if Matt can just continue to roll. In our last match from next week, we have Jeff Skaminski's Paper Tiger taking on Mike Bond's Eastfall Blunts. Wow, Jeff can keep rolling here and just absolutely squash Bond, or Bond could step up. Bond, this is do or die time for you now. So let's see what you got. All right, guys, so that's it. That's it for this coming week. That's it for last week. Everything's done. Another week's in the books. Let's see what happens. Work those waiver wires, get some trades going, everything else. I'm League Commissioner Kevin Bula. I'll see you next week. Bye.